Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a terrific show planned for you today. Please don't forget to stay tuned to IntellectualRadio.com after the Drive at 5 for Warriors Talk with Rochelle at 6 p.m. Guess what, guys? The doctor is in the house. Emmy Award winner, journalist, winning journalist, and commentator, the doctor himself, Charles Thomas, to the Drive at 5. But first, I have to say this: the views expressed on the Drive at 5 are not the views of IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I repeat, the views expressed on the Drive at 5 are not the views of IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. There is a lot to get to today, Doctor. So my first question, let's get started with the latest news that's out there, and that's with the Rittenhouse case. And a lot of people are saying he got off scot-free. And a lot of people are very disappointed about the outcome. But there's a flip side to that.
Well, first of all, let me say this.
Okay.
The practice has been closed for the last 4.5 years. I'm retired. And but I do take a patient every now and then.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The Rittenhouse case. Man, I watch a lot of news every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's particularly now that since the pandemic happened, you're kind of trapped there. And I love journalism. At least what I think is journalism. And I watched a lot of that trial, and I watched a lot of the coverage. And what I saw, the evidence that the jury saw, the video, it appeared to me that in the moment where all this was happening and he fired the shots, you could actually see the gun go off and the person who was shot fall back in at least one or two of the cases. You saw the guy chase Rittenhouse. The guy was chasing Rittenhouse. I'm sorry, folks, but he was chasing Rittenhouse. Another guy was hitting Rittenhouse with a skateboard. A skateboard. You can kill somebody with a skateboard, like a baseball bat. The third guy admitted on the witness stand that he pointed a loaded gun in Rittenhouse's face. Now, I don't think that's very advisable to do something like that to someone who's holding a loaded AR-15, and he was shot and wounded. To me, what I saw in that moment was a clear case of self-defense. And I believe that the jury, given the facts it was given, it was self-defense. I believe that, folks. Now, why was the kid out there with a loaded AR-15 strapped over his shoulder, and the police are looking at him and actually giving him a water bottle? It was a powder keg set to go off.
But here's another loaded question. Since the verdict and the judge threw out the weapon case, the weapon charge.
The weapon charge of
Right.
bringing the weapon to the situation.
Right. Can the Illinois state's attorney file charges because he was underage carrying a semi-automatic weapon to another state? He did not have a FOIA card.
But wait a minute.
But
what you just said.
What I'm saying is, can the state prosecute him? And those charges are Wisconsin.
Well, I deal with exactly.
But in Illinois, he had a loaded, semi-automatic weapon that he doesn't have no business carrying.
There's some question as to whether or not he crossed state lines with a weapon, and after he got the weapon there, I don't think it's any business at that point of the Illinois Attorney General or the county, whatever, Antioch, Illinois, whatever county that is. I don't know that that's necessarily within his jurisdiction to do that. But there is also a question as to whether or not he actually did that. Now, I hear conflicting reports. Where was
They
that
said
gun?
he brought the weapon
Well, they're saying
across.
that, but did he? Did he do that? Because his father and his grandmother lived in Kenosha. So he's worked as a lifeguard in Kenosha. His father lived in Kenosha, his mother in Antioch, Illinois. So there's some question as to whether or not that actually happened. I'm just dealing with facts here. That's all. That's all I can do. I mean, I would never let my 17-year-old son, and I've had a 17-year-old son, walk around with an AR-15. I wouldn't let him go near it. I mean, we don't hunt or anything like that, and I don't know why you need all that firepower to hunt. But and then the police saw him and they didn't do anything. And I think there were others out there who were packing, as they say, strapped. They didn't do anything. If any for this whole situation, I would blame the police for not stopping this kid. I mean, if there was a kid walking down the street from the studio with an AR-15 and we saw him, what would we do? We would call the police. The police
You will
would
call the
get
police.
there,
I will run the other
would get
way.
there. No, I would run the other way, but I would also make sure I called the police. And once the police got there, I would expect them to at least stop this person, question this person, detain this person and let the courts sort it out later. But I wouldn't let him walk around like that, nor would I let that other guy who pointed the loaded gun at Rittenhouse. What was he doing with a weapon? They don't talk about that. It was a volatile situation.
However, I strongly think there was something that could be done. I mean, let's give an example, okay? All right. When it just seems like when you know it's a complexion syndrome going on around here. I know, here I go again. Uh, a complexion syndrome going around. It just seems like they're more lenient towards whites
I agree.
and then they are
I,
towards blacks or people of darker persuasion or
Roman,
color.
I
Now,
agree with you 100%. If that had been a 17-year-old black teenager with an AR-15 walking down the street, he would have been stopped. He would have been stopped cold and said, "Where you going?" Probably put in jail, weapon confiscated, the whole bit. But what's that got to do with what happened on the street that night? Nothing. Nothing. The fact is, Kyle Rittenhouse, white boy, did it. White people attacked him and he shot him. I mean, that's white on white crime. We got enough black on black crime right here in the city of Chicago or in our area. We ain't worry about that. White people shooting white people, and I'm going to get upset about it and I'm going to get worked up about it to that extent. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to see white people shoot white people, but that's what happened. That's what happened. And for people to try to get so esoteric about this situation, to try to make it into a race matter, it's not. It's white on white crime. White folks have guns. They keep them. You can find per capita gun possession, legal or otherwise, in this state, in this region, white folks got 5 times more guns than black people. Why are we getting upset because of the Democrat Republican stuff? I'm an independent. I'm trying to be independent. I try to see things with a clear mind, a clear eye. These were white people shooting white people, pointing guns at white people. And I'm going to get upset and make this into a race issue? It ain't about race. This is about white folks and guns and how they treat each other with guns.
speaking of that, let's start with the latest regarding the increase in carjacking. It broke my heart to find this out, seeing reports, reading the articles of the Mount Greenwood carjacking, and one of the carjackers was a 5-year-old.
Hmm. What?
A 5-year-old. a,
Five?
a 5-year-old. Again, I asked this question to you once before. What the hell is going on?
Oh man.
And who is to blame? The black culture or today's black parenting?
Black
Your
parenting. Black parenting. I mean, black culture is being driven by this lack of parenting. I mean, for some reason, who's responsible for a 5-year-old being out and about in a situation where that 5-year-old is the perpetrator of a carjack? I haven't seen the story, so I don't know about the facts here. But if you tell me it's true that a 5-year-old was out in a situation where he could carjack somebody, I got to think the
he
parent
was with a
is
group of
remiss.
people at
Hmm?
the time, and he allegedly
Participated.
participated in
Yeah, I
the act.
mean the parent. What group of people? You can let your 5-year-old out with a group of people who carjack? I find that I find it if you're a 15-year-old and you're out carjacking
But these
somebody.
are there's also 12, 11,
Yeah, I know. I've heard of
10,
those.
10.
I haven't heard of five, but I've heard of the 12-year-olds who get involved in this carjacking business. And I, again, have to consider the parents. And where is it? Where's his father? You mean father is going to let your, I'm going to go to 12 because I
Mm.
do know that's a fact. Uh, you're going to let your 12-year-old out of your sight that long to be able to go carjack somebody? Who's your 12-year-old with? I know where my 12-year-old is every second of the day. I know that. I know they're in school where they're supposed to be. They're with their mom. They're with me. They're with their uncle, their aunt. They're at a friend's house. I know the friend. I know the friend's parents. It's a parenting crisis to that extent. I mean, I was particularly moved by this whole controversy that came up with the McDonald's CEO who criticized parenting for the death of Adam Toledo, the 13-year-old. I think it was in Humboldt Park or up north, Logan Square, wherever that
Right.
kid was shot, and the 7-year-old girl who was shot at the McDonald's drive-through. And the CEO said the parents there was a parenting failure, and he took all kind of grief for that.
But why you think that?
Hmm?
Why you think?
Why do you think so? Because
Was
I
that in
because
his
black
place?
folks do not want to deal with this issue. We run from it. We are running
But
from the
again, it goes
parenting
back to
issue.
my
It's
question.
not the whole problem. Problem goes to poverty. It goes to all kinds of other kinds of pathology that are also involved. But parenting is also an issue, and we got to get over this constantly. You know, oh, how dare you say it's parenting? Oh, no, no, no. Parenting is part of it, and it is a part that we have to begin dealing with at some point.
But is it the black culture that influenced the
You know,
parenting?
I'm not a culture expert. I don't I can't really say that. I can't really talk about that part of it, but I can talk about the parenting part of it. I mean, I've told you here that I believe that every child brought into this world should be raised by their mother and their father. There should and that mother and father must have daily contact with that child. They must be involved in that child's life. That's what has to happen. And when you see young men who father children and don't parent them, and there's a lot of young brothers out there that are doing that. You know, they buy Pampers every 2 or 3 weeks, and they think that's parenting.
But women
Or
allow
you
that.
and you, huh?
But women allow that.
Women allow that, and you have women who think they can parent a child by themselves, and most of them, quite frankly, are not doing a great job of it. They just can't, because it's a two-person job, and we have to go back to that reality, and we don't like to talk about that. Look, in my own family, my son and my daughter are single parents. They're trading kids with their other parent who don't live together. I got this. I'm not anybody who's holier than thou. I got the issue too in my own family. And but as a people, if we want to survive this era of captivity, if you can feel me on that, we're going to have to reform our black family. Reform, as in do it in a different way. Because right now, it's not working. We got, as you say, 5-year olds out here on their own, carjacking people. We got 12-year olds absolutely carjacking people, 14, 15, no values. You see the news and you see these hordes of teenagers converging on businesses and smash and grab and all that. I mean, who's doing that? I mean, I'm sure there's no black woman out there who gave birth to one of those kids who are in the smash and grabs that we see who want their child out there smashing and grabbing.
I know a couple. And I'm not
I
jiving
don't
you.
know
I'm
it.
not I'm not jiving you.
Uh-huh.
But there were parents. We rewind back to spring and over the summer during the
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 2020,
riots,
yeah.
the riots and stuff.
Hmm.
There were parents,
Grandparents.
grandparents, sons, mothers, daughters
Hmm.
going to Best Buy, stealing TVs.
Parenting. Parenting. I don't know that that's necessarily cultural. They know it's wrong. They know that they don't need to do that. That's why they were running with this stuff. But it's got to be parenting. It's got to be the whole family structure has broken down in the black community, and it's hard to say that it's everywhere. I don't accept that because I know that it's not everywhere. I know that I'm not going to allow that. You're not going to allow that. Other people, maybe in this room, are not going to allow that. Their children to do that. So it's not it. And maybe when you say culture, maybe there's certain maybe it's being allowed. Maybe people are looking the other way, and maybe it can become cultural. But I don't think it'll last long. If it is cultural, they'll snuff it out.
Now, here's the flip side. Now there's an increase in carjacking in white neighborhoods, and whites are committing these acts. However, the black community is getting blamed for influencing white teens to carjack. What are your thoughts on white carjacking? And some people think it is a black thing that only black people commit, or influencing the white teenagers or the white culture.
Well, I think if I don't, I certainly haven't done any surveys, but it appears from what I see on the news and the people that are arrested and the suspect descriptions that most of the carjackers that I see on the news are black, and they tend to be black teenagers, young black men, as opposed to white white young white men or women. Now there was the case of Mays Jackson,
Mhm.
who I read a story that he got carjacked by a white guy.
And
It,
and
it
and I'm gonna bring his quote up. He recently got carjacked, just for people on intellectual radio to know what happened. This happened last week sometime. I think 2 weeks ago, probably.
Mhm.
And he said his guard was down because the carjackers were white. What is your perception that the skin color makes some people feel relaxed? That seeing us like versus seeing a skinny black man with a hoodie or a black woman wearing a hoodie do the same thing.
Oh man, look, that's let me I'm going to digress and tell you a story of
Okay.
something that happened to me about 35 years ago. I was working for ABC News as a national correspondent, and we were in West Virginia, and we were covering a coal mine. No, we were in Virginia, and we were covering a coal mine story. And I'm out there with my microphone and I'm interviewing people, and I had a white producer with me, and the white producer pulled me and said, "Hey man, look, you got to be careful. You know where you were? You were in a very dangerous situation with some very dangerous racist white people trying to interview them." And I said, "Really? I didn't know that these white people were criminals that I was trying to interview." because I didn't know. Now you take me into a black neighborhood, I'll tell you who the criminal is. I know I know my white, I know my black people, but I didn't know white people. And I think I probably still have that problem. And I think it's driven by the media and it's driven by perceptions that we have not only of them, but of ourselves and what we will do. Um, but at the same time, I think that the majority of the carjackings in this region are being committed by black people. I mean, that's a fact. The ones that we hear about, certainly. And what can I, it's just true. I mean, if you look at homicide, who's doing the killing? Who's getting killed? Hmm?
Oh, I thought it was
Well, I was
rhetorical.
asking you a
Oh,
question. No, I
okay.
mean, it's not
No, it's
rhetorical. I'm asking you.
blacks.
It's black folks. Black folks are doing the shooting. Black folks are getting shot. So, what's wrong with, I'm not going to say it that way, but calling it as it is? I mean, saying it, I mean, it is what it is. This homicide rate in Chicago, black folks are going to have to deal with that. We're going to have to deal with that ourselves. How white people going, how's Arnie Duncan
But he's
going
getting
to
the
deal with the
money.
problem?
He's getting the money
He's
for it.
getting the money. I'm saying, but
But
why
he
should,
put on paper that he can do it. He can curb it.
that's
He can
politics
he
too.
can
I mean, that's why he's getting the money. Arnie Duncan. I mean, he's getting the money, but where are where, where are the black people that are truly addressing this problem and having $100 million to do it with?
they're shutting them down.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. But I mean, it's our problem. Ultimately, we're going to have to solve our problem. This isn't, you know, one thing that I think how this thing is going to be resolved ultimately, I don't think this is going to go on forever. Culturally, parenting, whatever you want to say. This guy who was just elected the mayor of New York City, watch him very closely. Former police officer, campaigned, I'm going to stop this stuff.
But you can't stop crime.
Well, you can't stop crime, but you can certainly put a lid on it. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to come down so hard on black people. See, I think it's a setup. The reason they got a black mayor in New York City now is because they want to stop the black crime. And they figure if they got a black man leading the stop and frisk and the other unconstitutional methodologies that they will use to do it, if a black guy's doing it, it's fine. It's not racist. That's what I think they're going to do. And I think if he's able to do this in New York City, Chicago is not far behind. St. Louis is not far behind. Memphis, other places, Washington, D.C., other places where you have black crime, they're going to put a lid on it and they're going to suspend the Constitution to do it. Mark my word. Mark my word. This is going to be ugly. And you know what else is going to happen? It's going to be a lot of innocent black people caught up in this because then they're going to start arresting color, arresting people, young black males who might be in one part of the town at a certain time of the day, and they're going to stop them, say, "Where are you going? You got a dinner reservation down here? Do you have an appointment? You live down here? No, no, no. Well, you're going to have to leave, and if you don't leave, you're going to be arrested." That's what we're looking at here. It's not pretty. Very dangerous situation.
Is it culturalism warfare? The older, middle, and younger generation of black culture are clashing with each other.
You think so?
As a result, we got an unrest in the black community. What do you think about that?
I think we.
Is it culturalism warfare?
I think
Yes,
it's. I don't think it's cultural as much as it is economic. I think it's you have
we've been
different.
in worse economic situations
Mhm.
than this, and it's never been
We've
like
been in worse economic
in
situations.
the black community,
Yes, definitely, definitely.
but it hasn't resulted to this
Well,
reality.
well, I think that, I mean, 30 years ago in Chicago, we had more murders. We had a worse situation. We had more people too. I think that's key. But I think it's horrible now. It's worse now because there's less support. So much of the black middle class has abandoned um, the others who are left to sort of stew in this dysfunction and pathology, and they have very little help for themselves. Um, we have black politicians that are more concerned about their party, the Democratic Party. I'll just have to say it, than they are with um, with what's happening in their communities. That happens all over the place. You know, they're Democrats. They want Democrats to win, and that's all they care about. They don't want the black community to win necessarily, but we have that problem. We don't have leadership in the community, and we have a lot of people who are leaving the community because they don't see any hope for it. And and as you say, there's a cultural, a faction that is overwhelming what I'm going to call the good people, the good guys. You got the bad guys overwhelming the good guys, and culturally, yeah, the music, the art that we see tends to glorify this violence, and this lifestyle. The rappers, the cussing, the disrespect for women, all of that is all part of it. Yeah, it's overwhelming I'm going to call it the good part, who we really are as a people and our struggle. It's being overwhelmed by these people who are so frustrated, so disillusioned. They've always been there, but now they sort of overwhelm everything.
Do you think the black community is in a state of unrest?
Unrest, parts of it, certainly the part, and if you look at Chicago, Inglewood is unrest, is in unrest. Parts of Chatham are in unrest right now. Grand Crossing is in unrest, but Hyde Park, which is still, I guess, as integrated as you're going to get in the city, it's not an unrest. Um,
But it's an increase in crime.
Absolutely, it's an increase in crime in my neighborhood, and I live in the West Loop. You know, it's very interesting in the West Loop. Um, there's a lot of people going to the restaurants and such. I moved there a long time ago, and it's sort of built, grown up around me. But I noticed that over this summer, that a lot of the young guys, you know, the they can hang out in the West Loop or in River North now. You know, I'm talking about a young brother who might have the dreadlocks, might have a few tattoos, might wear it in the some middle of the summer, might not wear his shirt, right? Or might be on a divvy bike, got his pants real low and his drawers hanging over his belt line. You see a young brother like that now downtown riding a divvy bike. Used to be the Chicago police did not let you light downtown after dark in those neighborhoods where they had restaurants and such. Now, young brothers are there. They might see somebody they have a beef with who's also there. Gunfire, gunshots, bam, bam, bam. That never happened before. Now it happens more often. And a lot of that pathology, dysfunction that was in the neighborhood is now downtown because a lot of these young people are going there for entertainment because there's nothing in their neighborhood. So they come down there, but they bring a lot of their issues with them. Used to be the cops didn't allow them to come, they harassed them, they did what they could to make it an inhospitable place. They don't do that anymore, the cops. And so you get this crime that's moving out of the hood, if you will, and moving toward the downtown areas, toward the white areas, as you called them.
Again, black leadership is MIA on Chicago violence. and campaign season starts in January. What are your thoughts on some Black leaders are just allowing this violence to happen without saying or doing anything?
I think something you said earlier about the Black community being in disarray and
Unrest.
unrest
It's a culturalism warfare.
that could manifest itself in low voter turnout in these neighborhoods. You've got a lot of Black folks who are disillusioned with Black political leadership now. Can I say that with some degree of certainty. That could translate into lower, perhaps much lower voter turnout than traditionally has happened in Chicago and the suburbs.
Is
And
that good for their opponents or good for them?
that's good for the Republicans because the Republicans have this thing where they say that if they're able to get 15% of the Black vote, that the Democrats can't win in Illinois. This is pre-Trump, by the way, because Trump he angered a lot of white people. So I think that's what really the formula didn't work then. So in this off-year election that's coming up, and J.B. Pritzker is up for re-election, by the way, that could be a problem for the Democrats because the Republicans think that if they can keep those Black numbers down, then the Democrats can't win, particularly if the Republicans are able to um, recapture their numbers in the suburbs. And looking at this election in New Jersey and this election in Virginia, it appears as though the suburban white folks went back to the Republicans. If that happens in Illinois and Black folks don't show up, the governor could have a serious problem.
Do you think the senator in Illinois, um, what's his name, Ratzenberg? Burger?
Who?
He's a
Senator,
yeah, he's a senator.
no, there's Durbin, and
Durbin
then there's Tammy
um,
Duckworth.
and then there's a Republican.
There's no
No,
Republican.
no. I'm sorry. He's a House member. He's on the committee with golly, I forgot his name.
Oh, Kinzinger?
Yeah, there you go,
Hmm.
Kinsinger. He's thinking about running for governor.
I've heard he's thinking about it, but I've also see he has styled himself as a moderate, maybe even left of center Republican because he was very anti-Trump during his he has been very anti-Trump and he has voted with the Democrats, for instance, on this infrastructure bill, and he angered a lot of Republicans for that. He would have a very tough time winning a Republican primary to become the candidate to run against J.B. Pritzker. So, because he's so uh, spoiled his reputation, if I can use that word, with the conservative Republicans. Because, see, the conservative Republicans, they control the Republican primary. Who gets to run statewide? Kinzinger would have, I believe, a very serious problem because he's talked too much during the Trump years, anti-Trump, because the right-wing Republicans, man, they love Trump. They think Trump did a great job.
2 months ago, when you were on the drive at 5, I asked what grade would you give Mayor Lightfoot, and you said a C minus. I asked this question again. The main reason you said she's not unifying city council. Now, months later, I asked the same question of you again. What grade would you give Mayor Lightfoot and why?
Right now,
Right now,
D plus.
she bumped down
Oh
to a
yeah,
D
because she
plus.
hasn't really unified the city. The crime problem is as bad, if not worse, than it was. I don't see any changes in certainly in the Black community that she can point to say that. I mean, they did, I think the Tribune or somebody did a story about her West Southwest or West South program was getting off. I don't see anything that's happening with it. But don't be too alarmed by the D plus Because number one, we're still a year away from the actual campaign beginning. People, you know,
But it's
petition.
weeks away.
What?
It's weeks away.
From what?
I mean, the campaign season starts
Well,
weeks
the
away.
campaign season for the state house
Right.
and the governor, but
Right.
not for the city. The city's
But don't they
23.
usually start early?
Huh? Nah, not that early. I mean, you can say it started the day, her first day in office, but I think it'll really start in the fall of 2022. That's when I believe the petitions begin. You got to start. Then the petitions have to be certified, I think, in January or something like that. And then you start the campaign for the spring of 23. But here's the key on that. One thing I learned covering politics, and I'm not acting like I know everything, but you never know about an election until you know who's running. And in Chicago, for Lori Lightfoot in 2023, it'll be how many people are running. Keep in mind that Lori Lightfoot, when she ran the first time, she only got 8% on the first round. 8% of the registered voters in Chicago voted for Lori Lightfoot. That's far from a mandate. She won with 17% of the people who voted, and not everybody voted. So she only had 8% of the people who voted for her that first round. So by the second round, when she ran against Preckwinkle and they connected Preckwinkle with Ed Burke and such, she won. And they say she won by acclamation. Oh, no, 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 no. She's got an issue. But again, it depends on who runs against her. There are people talking about Arnie Duncan, perhaps running for mayor. Um, there's this guy in the 19th ward, I think it's Jerry Joyce, who ran the last time. He finished fourth.
Lopez is
Yeah, everybody went,
considering
whoa, where'd that guy come from?
Lopez is considering running for mayor.
You think Lopez is?
Yes.
Has he said that?
Yes.
He said that. He's running for mayor?
Yes. He hasn't officially said it, but he's indicated that.
Well, he's on TV a lot. And
Right.
he's on the news. I get that, but I didn't know he was running
Yeah,
for mayor.
which indicates this other question. If the election was held today, she would lose. They did a poll on Fox News Chicago. The biggest surprise to me is former FOP President John Costanzara.
Catanzara. I think.
Costanzara, thank you. Who basically has racist views and comments regarding the Black community, will receive 24% of the vote. Should the Black people be alarmed with the former FOP receiving 24%? And that could potentially,
No, they shouldn't be alarmed by that. They should be alarmed by the crime and this parenting issue and the fact that these kids are running wild. That's why Catanzara gets 24% of the vote, because of crime. Those are frightened white people voting for him. Those are people who used to be white liberal Democrats saying, I can't walk out of my house at night. I can't, because of the crime. And the perception is the crime is being committed by Black people. And so that's why he gets 24% of the vote. Can he win? I think if you had an election and Catanzara was against Arnie Duncan in a runoff, I think Arnie Duncan could win. But check this out. I think if Catanzara was in a runoff with Lori Lightfoot might beat him, because people aren't about all the extreme stuff. And Catanzara seems like a guy that wants to, arrest them all and sort them out later kind of guy. And I don't know that Chicago is quite ready for that. And I think a lot of people would lean on their liberal sensibilities in Chicago, and Lori would give him a good run. Now, Arnie Duncan, I don't know about that.
Donald Trump started at 24%, and that 24% landed him the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And your thoughts?
My thought is that if you get a lot of people running again, it depends on who's able to fill up their silo, who's able to get their base to the polls. That's what Lori did Lori did in 2019. She got all those lakefront liberals, her LBGTQ supporters, and a few black people to the polls. She got her base to the polls. Willie Wilson did not. Give me another one. They didn't
Brett
get the,
Winkle.
Preckwinkle did well. She got it. She didn't. She didn't have much of a base because of the Ed Burke thing. But Lori was able to get her people to the polls. That's why she won the first round with 17, 16, 17, 18%.
Let's say it could be Brett Winkle and Lori again. Do you think?
I don't think it would be because I think Preckwinkle is a bit older now, and I don't think she would. I mean, she's going to be 73, 74 years old by then. That's pretty old for a mayor.
There is talk that former Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin might throw his hat in the ring to go against Brett Winkle this upcoming election. What is your thoughts on that?
My thought is that the Democratic Party is too petty to do that. And I'll tell you why. I think it was 2010. Richard Boykin supported Mark Kirk for the United States Senate. Mark Kirk, of course, is a Republican. Kirk won. The Democrats never forgave him for that. And they've been after him ever since. And I don't think he would have any chance it's a the election is nonpartisan, but I don't think he would have very much of a chance because the Democrats would just come at him with fangs bared. That's what they did when he ran for Cook County. He ran
for his second term.
For a second term, yeah. And this this guy Brandon Johnson, he beat him handily, and he did it with
by 400 votes, though.
Well, but
a win is a win, though.
A win is a win. He also, but he beat a sitting Cook County commissioner, and he did it with his friends at the Chicago Teachers Union, which is going to be active in this election as well.
But I still, just help me with this. I still don't understand what Cook County commissioner has anything to do with education.
What has anything to do with education?
Yeah.
Cook County commissioner?
Yeah.
I think they wanted Boykin gone more than anything. That's what I said. Petty. And
do you think they will put their petty differences aside for the greater?
No, they haven't done it in 50, 75 years.
But the old machine is about dead and gone.
But the new machine, whatever that is driven by unions. They're driven by CTU. And if CTU says they don't want you anywhere on the set, then you're not. And it's a tragedy. You know what really bothers me about all this?
Sure.
Is that black people follow this stuff. They do what the Democrats want. The Democrats have black people not making decisions. I'm not saying don't vote Democrat, because there's some great Democrats out there, that I would vote for. I name them, man, if you want. But that's my personal thing. But as far as just taking the hook, line, and sinker of everything, I mean, we were talking earlier about how we are getting in front of issues that don't have anything to do with us. And we provide the numbers and the cannon fodder, if you will, for the party when it's not I'm sounding like Maze Jackson. What's in it for the black people? I hate but we make decisions like that all the time. And we have to understand that some of this stuff is not about this. I was talking, and I hope we're running out of time yet, right?
We're getting close.
Man, I had this experience just over the weekend. I was at a Thanksgiving dinner, and I was talking to the host of the dinner, who was a 38-year-old, sort of up and coming young business guy. And he was a white guy. And he was telling me how he had done this beautiful work in his house. He did it himself. I said, man, how did you do that? Because this guy's a Purdue business grad. I said, how'd you do that? He said, Oh, I just opened up the booklet and followed the instructions. I said, come on, man. You knew how to make this woodwork and everything. Like somebody taught you how to do this. He said, well, I learned it in high school. I took woodworking, carpentry. I said, really? Where'd you go to high school? I went to De La Salle High School. You know De La Salle, private school on Michigan Avenue out there. I said, really? They taught you this? I said, yeah, yeah, but you didn't. No. He says, I wanted to be in business. Like, really? A private school taught you a trade? Hmm. Hmm. You learned a trade in high school, but it was a private high school. What if the black community took the money that is committed to our schools and said, we're going to teach the trades in some of these schools? We're going to teach you how to be a carpenter, a bricklayer, a plumber, right? We're going to create that situation. How do you do that? Well, you do it through school choice. Remember, you hear the conservatives always talking about school choice? What if you took the money and black people controlled it, the money that they got? I mean, the $6,000, $7,000 a year, whatever it is per student that they pay. And we started our own schools, charter schools, and we taught the trades. We don't need for the CPS to reopen Washburn or some trade school. We do it on our own. So there's an example where school choice would work for black people, helping black people.
Is it something similar that LeBron James did?
Maybe. I don't know exactly what LeBron James did, but
He opened
I,
his
yeah.
school in
But
Cleveland.
we blindly get in line with CTU, which wants its jobs. They want to control the jobs in the school. I ain't mad at them for that. But what works best for us right now? Do we take 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, teach him how to be a bricklayer or give him the basics, get him involved in the trades? I don't know. I mean, he set me to thinking, and I haven't thought it all out yet, but why do we suddenly react to school choice as something that's against black people when it would afford us a chance to control our own schools?
In city council, there is a fight between the Black Caucus and Hispanic Caucus over the remap. The Hispanic Caucus wants more representation and point to the census and wants the mayor to sign it now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Black Caucus said they will block her if she signs it. Blacks are still the majority in Cook County, however, by single digits, according to the census. What are your thoughts on the
In Cook
remap
County,
in Cook County?
not in the city.
Um, and
The city census said that
it,
Latinos had 1 or 2% more than black people. That's what the
um,
city census said.
they said, going to the Black Caucus, they said they have the majority.
Well, they're saying that, but I think the
Eh,
census
Yeah.
did say something else, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. I think the numbers,
By single digits, though.
yeah, the numbers are telling the story, and the Latino community is saying that we have more numbers, so we should have as many, if not more, aldermen. And it's a really strong argument, but the it's countered by the black community, by the black aldermen saying, hey, yeah, you got the numbers maybe, but you don't have the voters. You don't have a lot of those people are undocumented, and therefore, we can't. Why are they being counted the same way American citizens, black American citizens, are being counted? I think that's one aspect.
Well, the census reported that blacks are being undercounted, though.
Well, yeah, but how do you prove that? I mean, why are they?
Well, according to what the census said a couple of weeks ago, that they purposely undercounted.
The census admitted it purposely
It
undercounted black
undercounted.
people.
Yes.
Whoa, I didn't know that one. I hadn't heard that one yet.
I'll
But
send you the link.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, if both the Tribune and the Sun Times have done stories in the last 2 weeks on how blacks are leaving the city. This is by design, my friend. Why are those stories suddenly appearing a day or two before or a week before this council vote comes down? Now, if the council cannot agree on a map, then I think it goes to a public
Springfield.
vote, a referendum of some sort. I'm
Oh,
not I'm not quite sure but they have to do it by December 1st, or it can't. It won't be done. The election, they do it in the 22 election
mhm.
in order to set up a new map for 23.
So will that be hard for a person who's running?
I think so. I think it'd be very hard. I think you'd have a lot of the usual suspects on the ballot. Now, where they represented, who they represented would be different. Absolutely. But the same suspects would be on the ballot because they at least would have name recognition, as their basically their only advantage moving forward.
Yeah. Um, let's quickly talk about the infrastructure bill that's passed recently. A question that puzzles me the most is people fail to ask or explain this. How would this help the Black community? And will this bill employ Blacks on the construction sites?
Well, see, there you go again. See, that depends on your friendly Democratic Party. I mean, the Democrats, the big trade union people, they claim to be Democrats. So why couldn't Tony Preckwinkle or Robin Kelly or any of these other big time Democrats, why don't they call those union people into a room and say, hey, it's been 50, 75 years now, and you still don't have any black people working on these jobs. And you still aren't letting them in the union. And you still aren't calling them if they do get in the union. Why haven't the black why haven't black people done that? The black elected officials. Why haven't they done that? They're right there. They come to the meetings. I'm talking about the union guys who don't hire black people. So it seems to me like the black elected officials are so worried about causing any problem in the union with their union members that they don't do anything for their people.
Is it the money towards their campaign?
Here you go. Yeah, the unions give money, so we're not gonna bother them. It's a very serious problem in Chicago, where black elected officials, again, and I say this dozens of times, are more in tune with doing what the party needs as opposed to what their communities need.
Haitian refugees are denied entry to the United States. Some are being processed now. However, some people are not seeing it. Is the Africans and Haitians are the new Hispanics in America. Their numbers are increasing in Hispanic sphere. They will take over the labor force because they are willing to work cheaper than them.
It's not that many. It's not that many Haitians or Africans compared to the number of Latinos who are coming across the border
Well,
and seeking
some
asylum.
could be, to challenge that question again, undocumented,
Mhm.
undocumented. And there are Africans that study abroad and they just stay in the
Mhm.
United States. So my question is, they work like for constructions and stuff like that, and Latinos fear they might take over.
I mean, I don't know personally what Latinos fear. I just know that there aren't anywhere near as many black people, not necessarily descendants of slaves, but black people coming over the border. I mean, I think we saw that picture of the border patrol when the horses and the black people in the water. Um, it has inflamed a lot of opinions about what's going on. We also saw the pictures of the people under the bridge who were primarily black. I mean, you told me today about a black caravan that's on its way, but still, the numbers pale, cons- uh, considering the numbers of Latinos who are seeking asylum in the United States. They just pale. One other thing too that we need to remember about those people, those are highly motivated people. When you talk about selling everything you own to give the money to one of these human smugglers, selling everything you own and walking to the US border with your children, your wife and your children, those are extraordinarily motivated people. And when they get here, they're going to work. They're extraordinarily motivated. And what they do is, they will undercut a lot of American workers, construction workers in particular. When I say construction workers, I don't mean people working on 75-story buildings downtown. I'm talking about people who are putting in a new bathroom in your house or painting your house or roofing your house. Those kind of things. They're going to do that at a lesser expense. And a lot of these people, particularly white people in the suburbs, get very, very upset when they envision that or actually experience that because they see their livelihoods being attacked.
All right. The doctor has spoken. Thank you for joining us, doctor. And don't be a stranger to the Drive at 5,
Man,
okay?
look, you know me. You just call and I
Yeah.
make the ride. But
Uh,
5 is tough
oh,
because that Eisenhower is that's a difficult do.
okay. Thank you so much. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who's behind the scenes. You guys have a wonderful week, everyone.